The Senate Judiciary Committee kicked off its Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings today. And if this process seems rushed to you, you're not the only one, because it seems like Barrett may have skipped some details in her disclosures, what she needed to provide to the Senate. So it's day one of Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearings, and Senate Judiciary Committee Democrats are already wondering out loud if Barrett lied by omission in her Senate questionnaire. Ranking member Senator Dianne Feinstein and all of the other Judiciary Committee Democrats, Senator Kamala Harris included, said in a letter to Assistant Attorney General Beth Williams that they find Judge Barrett's incomplete Senate Judiciary Questionnaire to be troubling. Democrats focused on 3 omissions in particular, the first 2 of them having to do with Barrett's pro-life activities. On the first 2, Democrats suggested that it was telling that Barrett and Williams didn't disclose Barrett's speeches on Roe v. Wade and her signing of a pro-life ad until after the media found out. So that included 2 2013 talks, as well as an advertisement that Judge Barrett signed on to as a member of Notre Dame's University's Faculty for Life. That was some sort of group there. And there's also more that she didn't disclose. Press reports have also revealed that Judge Barrett failed to disclose to the committee her legal work as one of 2 lead attorneys who defended a Pittsburgh steel magnate accused of orchestrating the bankruptcy of a major Pennsylvania hospital system, the letter continued. Presumably, Democrats are interested in playing this detail up because they see Barrett as the end of the Affordable Care Act, rightly so. Democrats said all of this raises questions about Barrett's candor to the Senate Judiciary Committee and raises serious concerns that the Republican orchestrated sprint to confirm Barrett before the election has resulted in a shoddy confirmation process. So I would say it's both. She clearly meant to obfuscate and hide some of these details, but it's shoddy, the process itself, because we also see that it's rushed. It's rushed on purpose. Trump has said that it's going to be rushed. They want to get the nomination in before the election, completely undercutting the past precedent that Republicans tried to set, which we'll get to later. But before I get into the things that she did disclose that are troubling and I don't think are reported on enough, what do you have to say about all this, Jayar?
Well, the first question I always wonder whenever things like this happen, these obvious omissions or straight lies, or really trying to hide records from the American people, and also maybe senators that are gonna ask her about it, is the assumption that maybe they can get away with it. And that's always the first thing whenever anybody does something wrong, or maybe cuts some corners, or maybe lies on a resume. Not necessarily what was happening here as far as lying on a resume, but at least omitting things that could be brought up, is maybe no one will notice. There's no way that I don't think there's any way that they potentially thought that. When you're gonna go through a Supreme Court nominee in a contentious point right before an election to potentially oust a president that is outrageously unpopular, do you think that they accidentally forgot these major things about her record? No, I don't think there's much of a chance that they forgot, or she forgot before putting them in. These are things that they didn't want to have ammunition maybe put forward. But in reality, if they continue to go down the same line that they've been through in anything that this administration does, or if its supporters does, is who cares? Everything we do, we know that opposition is gonna point it out and call out the negative things about it and how it's bad for the country. And our side is gonna excuse it no matter what. I don't know why they didn't continue down this same path, because now it adds an extra layer for Democrats to say, hey, look, they omitted these things. It sounds like they're not very proud of these aspects of her record. They're not proud of the fact that she was working to try and openly be against women's rights and these type of things that we know is gonna come up. And also Affordable Care Act, maybe getting in time to subvert another election. All these things are gonna come up. You might as well admit it from the beginning, but I don't know, maybe it'll work no matter what they do, because we're tearing down a freeway at rapid speeds of lying and being incoherent to the American people. So why would they start now? I'm still trying to find an answer to that part of the question.
Well, there's no incentive not to lie. There's no incentive to be truthful in the modern Republican Party. One, the Democrats are terrible at holding Republicans accountable here, but basically the calculation was, maybe they won't catch this. And if they do, so what? We know the Republicans are gonna rubber stamp her nomination anyway if the Democrats do allow this procedurally. So I totally agree with you, Jayar. But in terms of her election integrity, I think that's a really important topic. And it is something that she did disclose, I believe, in her records. But even that is troubling in itself, the details of it. So some great reporting from Ari Berman of Mother Jones. The article came out yesterday. Justices John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh worked on George W. Bush's legal team during the 2000 Florida recount and successfully intervened to stop Democratic ballots from being counted. If confirmed, Barrett would be a third justice who worked for Republicans during the Florida recount, increasing the likelihood that the court, with a 6-3 conservative majority, would side with Trump in a post-election dispute, even if the facts and the law aren't on the president's side. On her questionnaire for the Senate Judiciary Committee, Barrett said she provided research and briefing assistance on Bush v. Gore as a young associate with Miller, Cassidy, LaRocca, and Lewin. I worked on the case on location in Florida for about a week at the outset of the litigation, she wrote. Barrett said she worked in Florida with Stuart Levy, a partner at the firm who is now head of the Libra Association, a cryptocurrency organization started by Facebook. According to court records and interviews with lawyers involved in the 2000 recount, Levy and Barrett worked not just on Bush v. Gore, but on two little known but pivotal related cases during the recount. In those cases, Republicans sought to count mail ballots that were disputed by Democrats because of evidence that Republican operatives had altered incomplete absentee ballot request forms. That position stands in sharp contrast to Trump's current assault on mail voting, but there's a certain consistency here. Republicans will take whatever stance on mail ballots maximizes their electoral chances, and Barrett's work in 2000 suggests she might be willing to play along. I would say might is not the accurate word. I would editorialize on the reporting here and say she would absolutely play along. There is this fiction that everyone in Washington, with outside of a select few progressives, have decided they're going to go along with. That the judiciary is impartial and that it's 1812 and they don't have access to newspapers or CNN and they don't read the news and they just look at the merits of the case and decide from there. And it's based on their judicial philosophy that's independent of politics. BS, obviously. Barrett, if she gets on the court and Trump has said, I think the Supreme Court is going to be involved in litigation about the outcome of the election, we know she's gonna side with Trump. It needs to be enough of a landslide that that case is undercut, but there's a very good chance that it's not just bluster from Trump, that he is going to challenge the legitimacy of the election in court. And we now know from Barrett's past that she helped Republicans stop the Democratic recount, stop ballots from being counted where Gore would have won, and handed the election to George W. Bush prematurely. She could do the same thing here. With Trump, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, we were just talking about how the potential oversight that she may have had with putting certain things in her record or in the process for her being nominated that we're discovering now. But things like this, none of this is a mistake either. So even back in 2000, when she's working on this is your resume for a positive thing for the Republican Party to nominate you. There's several people that I'm sure the president could have nominated to the Supreme Court that would have been, rushed through the same process as she has. But when you do something like this from back in the day like that, you are setting yourselves up to be accepted by this Republican Party as a positive character here. So this isn't just a Trump thing. This is a buildup for 20 years now. This was 20 years ago. The Republican Party knows this about her. They know who she worked with. They know her background. This is something that's a resume builder for her. So usually you want to hide some of the things you may have worked on or maybe not participate on certain things when anybody in her position, I'm sure, had aspirations of maybe being on the Supreme Court at some point. So in doing so, you forge a path. People in these types of positions forge a path. There's people that want to run for president 16 years from now, right? And they're thinking about it. They're positioning themselves. I think it's similar with Supreme Court justice. I think she positioned herself with work on things like the Bush v. Gore, and now these are paying off. And it's perfect. You have a president in place that would love to have another Supreme Court justice come in and do the same thing, or maybe have a larger role in a similar role that she played back in the day. It all adds up. This is an entire Republican Party process and problem, not just a Donald Trump problem. They're like, hey, we got Donald Trump in place. He can help us push this through because we always want to have as many justices on the Supreme Court as possible that would do our bidding, that have nothing to do with actually judging based off of the Constitution or the law.
Yeah, and that's why it's just so important not to rehabilitate the Republican Party and have them distance themselves from Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump is exactly who they are. All the judicial appointments are in line with who Republicans would appoint, and policy-wise, they're identical too. It's just in the style and the wrecking ball nature of Trump. That's the difference.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.